Hi, everyone, and welcome to Quantum Healing with Candace. It is the 19th of August, 2017, and I've been waiting for this day for quite some time. I'm welcoming my really good friend, Pamela Aaralyn, to catch up with her here in a moment. But before I get started, I just want to send out a very big thank you and a big hug and lots of love to all of our N5D friends and Greg Prescott, who makes this show possible.
Absolutely. Big bow to the Greg Prescott and Michelle Walling.
Michelle Walling, my partner in crime. I've been calling her. We've got a lot going on this year. I want to say hi to all our Facebook friends. I want to say hi to Pamela's Facebook community. You know, I've been watching the numbers on your community just grow and grow, Pamela.
I don't know how it's happening. Someone asked me the other day, how did this happen that you grew such a community? And I thought, well, one day I just woke up and thought, I'm tired of feeling so lonely as a starseed. I wonder if I just create a little community and start adding people, you know, how that'll be. So I did, and I added about 1,000 of my friends, and without their permission, granted.
1,000 of your friends. I love that. Actually, I just hit 1,000 friends on Facebook, and I thought that was a pretty big deal. So I'm very grateful that I'm one of your many fans and friends. Now, for those of you who've never listened to Pamela before, Pamela is a clear conduit channel, and she is not only that, she is one of the most amazing human beings I've ever met in my 56 years on planet Earth, and I love her to pieces. And this is almost a selfish show because, you know, every once in a while Pamela and I will chat like 2 minutes here or 3 minutes there, and we really don't have time to catch up because we're both so busy, and we're going to catch up live here right in front of everybody. So that's kind of what today is.
Yeah, we're going to be discussing things that come up, as they often do when we begin, you know, our discussions together, and things just start to come up. Topics just fly out and become channeled.
Yeah, they do. You know, I was thinking, I was imagining in my head all day long, even yesterday, I was imagining getting like a cartoon of two people in a roller coaster, like on the front car, you know, like going down the, you know, and I was going to cut your face out and put it on one, and I was going to cut my face out and put it on the other. But, you know, everyone else is coming along for this ride as well. It's been a crazy 2017, hasn't it?
It has. It really has. There's a lot of big shifts going on right now.
Yeah, it really, really has. And I want to talk about a little bit of that. But, you know, today, I mostly want you to catch yourself up in a kind of a concentrated way with all of your fans out there. There's so much going on in your life. I mean, this year is kind of crazy, and we will talk about all of that too. But I really want to catch up with you on all of your projects and all of your upcoming, you know, things going on. And I want to talk to you about your breatharianism experimenting. I mean, because wow, you know, and some of the new things going on, the galactic history teachings, the other teachings that you've got going, and some very special events coming up. So, you know, I don't know where you want to start.
Yeah. I am in the process of planning a channeling, potentially in Sedona, you know, Arizona this year, you know, in the fall. I'm looking forward to that. I haven't posted any details, so that's super secret information because I haven't planned it yet. There you go. But I already have a host, and that's kind of how I roll. If the universe makes something happen for me and literally places it in my face and says, you must go here because someone's planning it for you, then I do it. Otherwise, I go, okay, we'll see. And that's what happened. So now that I have a host for Sedona, Arizona, there will be a channeling there. And we haven't decided who, but it will likely be Yeshua or a Christ consciousness being, as it normally is. So that's coming up this fall in Sedona. As soon as we get it planned, you'll see it on my website. Another big thing in 2018, we are planning an India tour. So that is super exciting. I have a lot of past lifetimes in India, a lot of connection to India, and we are planning on channeling Krishna in various places all over India. So that's really exciting. I had a close friend and a person help sponsor it for me and organize it for me. And she's going to be working with my management team. She just put together our itinerary of all the places that we're going to be going, including Anandamayi Ma's ashram, including Rishikesh and Delhi and many other places. So we're really excited about that. And this gives my followers a chance to tour with me, because we are accepting 30 people to tour with me. So that's exciting. At a very low cost, 30 people can tour with me. So you'll get details on that as soon as we, get a little bit more planning under the way, because she's working with her tour company right now to get that planned.
So you're going to several places. You're not just going to one place in India. You're going to go to several places. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the two biggest things coming up. In 2018, in October, I'm going to be at a retreat, in Missouri at the Lake of the Ozarks. So that's really, really exciting. People can reserve their spot now.
Hold on now, I have to interrupt you. Not just people.
Yeah.
It's not just people, right? Because this is a women's retreat.
Yes, it is a women's retreat. I was totally corrected on that as well. I was like, yeah, sure, reserve a spot. And it is a goddess retreat. It is a women's retreat. So we'll have a lot of things going on there, including teachings and many things. So that's really exciting. Teachings, healing, potential of reserving some space with me for a healing or a session. And there are other people healing and teaching there as well. And that's exciting. That's in Missouri next year. What else is going on? We have a Serapis Bay channeling coming up here in a couple weeks. So I have never publicly channeled Serapis Bay. Thereafter, Serapis Bay is amazing. He is the being that created all of the Christ consciousness beings. Like, he is like
no way.
Ascended master. That basically Buddha and Jesus and Krishna and all the beings that we think about. Serapis Bay is like their guardian and ascended master of those beings. So we'll be channeling that being. We're going to be going forth into channeling Saint Germain this year here in a couple of months. People are asking about that, and I'm finally prepared for that. That's coming up in a couple of months this fall. So there's just a lot coming up.
The Christ consciousness energies seem to really be ramped up this year, and particularly since the Lion's Gate. Even since you just, started mentioning all of that, my body has started buzzing and tingling all over the place. And you know what, Pamela? I haven't even stopped dreaming about lions or cats since since the Lion's Gate. I even had 3 lions in my dream of last night. It just keeps coming.
Yeah. And I also am starting my galactic historian classes. I am a galactic historian. Since age 5, I've been traveling to various other dimensions through various portals to learn about galactic history of all the beings where we come from. And the class for the learning from the Lyran felines, Meet the Lyran felines, is coming up on September the 1st. And they are going to be channeling through me to teach about connecting to your higher self, connecting to your purpose, which is a big deal with what's going on right now in Lionsgate, finding your purpose. A lot of people right now just feel incredibly lost in the human conscious collective. So the Lyrans are going to be teaching about finding your unique purpose, how to get over depression and dark night of the soul and things that people are struggling with really heavily right now. They're going to be teaching about that. And connecting to your higher self. So all of that's coming up on September the 1st. So you guys can
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, you can save your spot on my website there under the services offered page. Many people have asked about how to get a hold of recordings of my former classes. That's coming up. We're going to be adding that this week for those of you who are really excited about say you missed one in the channeling and mediumship, or the all-seeing eye, which was to open the third eye. If you missed anything in relation to that, the Akashic Records classes, there are going to be recordings there for purchase this week as well. So there are a lot of things that we're working on, a lot of changes in the works, just to make my website more user-friendly, to be able to purchase past classes, to be able to just have access to my chants. We're working on that over the course of the winter. We're going to be recording some of my overtone chantings, overtone healings, and guided meditations and mantras.
Wow. you know, it just keeps going. And even one of the things I wanted to ask you about when we first set this show up months ago was to talk about your shamanic and crystal healing grids, because you're still doing that too, right?
Yeah, I still do that. I don't do them as frequently because they require a lot of time, but I do go into the ether while I'm sleeping and during meditation and while I'm awake. Um, for people, and I use shamanic grids to create portals to travel through past lifetimes, and that's the Akashic records. And I also travel into future potentials, which is called the concordant records. I talked a lot about that in my Akashic records review class, Journey Through the Akasha Part 2. And we talk about the concordant records because they're very useful to become your ultimate manifester, to really step into your purpose. So for people who are struggling with health issues, abundance issues, with these shamanic grids, the guides have come through and the guardians have come through to provide some miraculous healings. I had someone show up at my most recent retreat, barely able to walk or breathe, and he got on a plane and came to the retreat after, with severe pulmonary fibrosis, and he is healing now. And I got to hug him and hold him and work on even a little bit more. So it's going to take him some time, but to get on a plane and to come all the way across the country with severe pulmonary fibrosis, and be like at least 50% more healed than he was I had no idea. I'm just doing what the guides tell me. And I'm like, well, hopefully this works, because that's how I roll. I have confidence that the guides are going to step in. I'm like, oh, you want me to work with someone who's dying? All right, let's go. And I don't question it. I just do it. And he is now, able to walk stairs, and he's able to get out of bed, and he's able to breathe better. And, he's still on oxygen, but he's doing a lot better. We had someone who had ovarian cancer, and then she went in after a grid and they opened her up and they're like, where is it? So that was even more powerful. And that was my my third grid that I had ever done for someone. So I work with your ancestors, your shamanic ancestors, your guardians, both the Akasha and the concordant records. So it's good for abundance, it's good with health issues, it's good with emotional blocks and depression. It's been amazing to start offering that to the world. But yeah, it does take a lot of time. My entire living room is set up with grids. Like it just took over my house.
And so many specific different kinds as well. I know you and I were talking about one of my horses who we might do some of this grid work with, and then maybe take a photograph of it and then go put it in her stall so she can look at it.
Yeah, that's what I tell people to do. When you get a grid done for you, I send very specific types of pictures of the grid, and they have portals in them. So the more you look at them, the more it's going to really affect your world. And you do this for 33 days. And if you do it the whole time, people have gotten really complete healings. Sometimes they've gotten complete healings in 2 days. But if for the more resistant health problems, you have to take the whole 33 days.
You said portal so fast, and I really wasn't going to mention this, but while we're talking, all of a sudden this comes up. I don't even know if you can see this. Let's see if it's probably so lit you can't see it.
You're going to sit in that again?
What is that? This got a picture of something from you. And I'm thinking, is that a portal? Did you even know that just got sent here while we're talking? What is that?
That's on your property is what that is. I'm like, that's why I'm saying, are you going to sit in that again this year?
I actually am. Some of your advice, I know we're kind of jumping into that, but maybe why not right now, talking about 2017 in this eclipse corridor. And, it's not a new idea for those who are, spiritual and understand the energies of what's going on, to really lay low during this time. People go in and they're quiet. And actually, you know what? I had a session plan for that day for months. I didn't even know. It was just a Monday. It was a Monday in August that I, booked a long, long time ago. And so I'm watching that come up, and I'm hearing some of this, and I'm going, well, what's going on? But you know what? For me, it's kind of crazy, but for me, the synchronicities, the numerical things, the signs from wildlife, other things, the matrix dissolving color things that happen in the vision, that has exploded in my life since the end part of October and coming into the Lion's Gate. And every time I've talked about what I was going to do on the eclipse, I'm thinking, well, I have this session, And anyway, I've talked to the woman. It was her idea. She basically just last night said, how about we just meet and do something with the eclipse only and not do a session? Because I wasn't going to take away her session, right? I mean, she booked it a long time ago. But now I'm not doing a session. And then all of a sudden, all of the dominoes fell, all of the things happened, and I realized that I'm supposed to be with her in that portal during the eclipse. And I know that's kind of not what a lot of people are doing, but every time I've asked for signs, assurances, and guidance, oh my God, the last time I've had this many synchronicities, this much stuff coming through was when I ended up in Arkansas in 2008 with the late, great Dolores. And I can't not follow that. But I'm telling you, I mean, wasn't it just yesterday you were talking about this? I'm listening to you and I'm like, whoa, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be the rebel again, even in the metaphysical world. I'm going to be the rebel. I'm going to be out there.
Well, I got to put in my headset. Hold on.
Yeah, so she can, yeah, there you go. Back and forth with the audio and the equipment that we do. Actually, you know what? So much has happened just since watching, Pamela, your Christ consciousness and Lyran connection of the Lion's Gate show. And as a matter of fact, we're going to take some questions definitely later on in the show, but I want to go ahead and answer this one live, if you would, Pamela, because it kind of fits into everything that's going on here. I just dreamed of the 3 lions last night, and here's this lovely lady saying that she had 3 big lions, not only one time, but why in 3? And I have an idea how you might answer that, but why don't you answer that one specifically in this time of the Lion's Gate and the eclipse quarter? What's up with the 3 and all the cats?
It represents something that Serapis Bey, Saint Germain, and Yeshua ben Joseph have all described to me as the event. So it is a correlation of connecting your past, your present, with your future. So basically, because the past really doesn't exist, it pulls up all of the negative core beliefs, negative emotions, trauma that no longer serves us, and it basically just relentlessly yanks it out. That's why people are struggling so much, with the human shadow right now. And insofar as the future, it gives you potentials, okay, based upon the concordant records. So within the concordant records, it's like your higher self has this hodgepodge of stuff that you're aligned to do based upon your pre-birth intentions, your soul contracts, if you will, whatever you want to call them. And then it says, okay, do you not like that anymore? Okay, let's give you a chance to really look at the now. Where do you stand now that you've purged all of this unnecessary emotional drama and trauma and shame and guilt and all these unnecessary core beliefs that are really plaguing humanity, fear-based things right now that you've purged all that, which will happen between now and the eclipse, which I believe is on Monday. That's why people are feeling so yucky. After that, it kind of gets you into a place where you just are quiet and you go within and you're like, okay, now that I've done that, what am I? Not who am I, not who within my roles and my personality, what I want to do in action for, what am I? What do I want to feel? What am I meaning? I'm love. I want to feel this way. I want to connect with my true divine nature. It kind of pulls you into your true divine nature to give you access to the realm of potentials, which again is what I call the concordant records. And then you become your own manifester. You begin to honor your own purpose. You begin to manifest your own path from the point of the now. So you get a start over. It's like a spiritual and energetic reset point that occurs within the first 6 days after the eclipse, well up until September the 2nd. So that's what's going on. And it's connecting everything about you and then saying, okay, now release all that, because you're not your body, you're not your personality, you're not your job, you're not your relationship. You're not your business partnerships, you're not your friendships, you are not any of these titles that you've imposed upon yourself, especially for negative reasons. If you felt those things were holding you back, you get a chance to sort of revamp everything. You'll notice that businesses are revamping, friendships are revamping, relationships are revamping, and kind of having a little bit of a, okay, this isn't working, let's make it clear, and we either go our separate ways or we start over. So relationships are ending. or coming back together, or both. It's like this giant reset from all different places, 3 different perspectives of us, so that we become united with our true divine nature. There's no more 3, there's 1.
I love that. And of course, you know, what is more Christ-like, thinking about, you know, the Trinity and the 3 and everything. It seems like that there's a connection there with the 3. I've been seeing a lot of triple 3s and a lot of you know, 3, 6, 9s and that kind of thing too during this time. All the numbers, but many of those.
Yes. Absolutely, me too. 3s are really, really relevant. And when Lionsgate opens, that's a massive portal, and the majority of us here are connected in some way, shape, and form with the Lyrans, you know, with that part of our starseed nature, you know, and I am one of the ambassadors on this planet for Lyrans. That's why I'm here. So for me, this is the most important time. All the changes in my life occur every year at this time. I step into my power this year every time. All sorts of changes happen this year every time. So for many of you who are following my work and you see me changing, that's why. Like, I'm stepping into my power and I'm like, okay, I am done being ashamed that I am a galactic historian. I am done being ashamed of talking about aliens. You know, I am done holding back my true nature.
Just kind of crazy. You know, I've always loved the cats, and in my own quantum healing session with Alice Mixer in July, I had a lion guide, you know, begin that whole thing, and then it's been cats ever since. And then after listening to you and your program, you know, your show on the Lionsgate and the Lyran connection, it became even bigger. I mean, they just kept coming. And then I don't know if you happen to have seen this or not, but I had this cat and he got really, really sick. Wait, first on the Lionsgate, I had a session, and guess what? The woman had a lion for a guide during the session, of course, right? And then pretty soon, like that day or the next day, it was like that night, one of my favorite cats got really, really sick, and he went downhill in a hurry. And he lost half his body weight, his organs were failing, and he was this feral cat that mostly nobody could touch, and he was just letting it, he was checking out. And something else happened, and I stepped into this, my really good friend David Manning and I were talking, and he said something to me about love without condition. Now, we say this all the time. We talk about unconditional love all of the time, but I was just like, I just learned about his organ failure and I was boo-hooing, and he said, let's accept love without condition right now. And it made me think of that when you were saying, who are you when you define yourself? And I was thinking about defining love with this condition, which was, I wanted that kitty to stay with me, right? That was a condition, kind of, right? I mean, sort of. I was kind of imposing this idea, and I just went, no, I'm just gonna, this pure love, pure everything, pure feline connection to what I love about that cat. And he has gained every pound back. He's completely well. That cat has been in my house for 1.5 years with a problem with his digestion. It's completely cured.
Wow.
He went from being almost dead on the 11th of August to even 3-4 days ago. He's perfectly normal. He's gained all of his weight back, and he's eating and digesting perfectly. That's been a part of what's going on here. It's like cats everywhere. The cats, and they're playing out the stories almost right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, it is. And it's a big deal, these shifts that are occurring right now. It's a very exciting time, you know, ascension in a brand new way, you know. So it's exciting for, you know, as Dolores would call them, the volunteers. You know, it's exciting for all of us to be here right now. And you have my hearts. I know you're going through a lot, emotionally speaking, and that it's a hard shift. So I just, you know, what's strange about this time for me is that I ended up a long time ago putting vacation time during this time. And then I ended up taking my vacation sooner because of plane tickets and prices being better then. And now I had this blank time, and I sat with management, because he was going through a move of home and office, so he's off this time as well. And I'm manning all the emails and doing everything while he's out. And I'm just sitting here with myself going, well, I'm glad that I left this on the schedule. I could have filled it right up, but I didn't, because I needed to sit with this time, and I had no idea why I was leaving it there at that time. And management and I sit down, and we were like, well, why is this here? Did you put this here? I'm like, I don't really remember, but I guess I did put this here. I guess just leave it. It's working out.
Yeah. Wow.
So a lot of my friends, are wanting to go up and see the eclipse, and they're just drawn towards it. So I kind of want to make that clear, because I know what I said in the Lionsgate channeling, but some of you will actually be drawn towards it, and some of you will be repelled. And it's based upon whether or not all of your purging has already been done. Candace, you might be drawn to it because you've already gone through for the past year. Some of you have been purging for the past 7 months or so. And then if you have, then there's nothing left to come up. So what you will feel, for those of you who have already gone through that stage of the Lionsgate portal activation, you will feel drawn towards it, and you will feel really, really pulled to just go sit within it. Now, that's not me. I'm still purging. So I'm feeling really, really raw. It's a terrible time emotionally for me, and I'm like right on top of it. But my two friends who I'm traveling with this weekend, they are running to it. They're like, I want to go sit in. And I'm like, go right ahead. My partner and I will be in the house meditating quietly.
Yeah. We had a question in the Q&A talking about not feeling well, and so that kind of explains that, right? You're still purging, and you're still kind of getting it out there, and that's why you noticed some people who are wound up tight and really, really angry normally are that to the nth degree right now.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons about laying low, especially for empaths, right?
Yeah, especially for empaths, because we take it in. And for those of you alchemists, you don't just take it in, you transmute it and try to give it back whole to society. You are the givers, the servers, the helpers, but basically you are unable to transmute right now. So stop taking stuff in. Focus on yourselves right now. I know it sounds selfish, but I have just basically pushed everyone way out here for a while and said, I love you guys. I love you. Just kind of give me some space, because I don't want to, the decisions I'm making right now and the changes in my life right now need to be done from a really quiet space, so that I know that I'm connecting with my higher self during these changes and during this purging. So the more I talk and the more I make plans, the harder that gets to be true, the harder it is to be connected to my true divine nature in that shift,
Right. And even yesterday when you were having trouble talking, I'll have our common friends know, I sent Pamela a note. I'm like, we can reschedule, girl. You don't, your throat was kind of, and you know what? I'm talking about your throat. Next thing I know, my throat's like this. And my daughter, Lauren, has got a sore throat. And I'm like, wait a second, Pamela, we did this back in May. We both lost our voice at the same time. Are we doing that again? But you sound much better today. And, you give so much to your community. You do so much for your community. You just give it. And so for people to give you some space right now so that you can recharge during this very important time is lovely to hear, dear. I'm glad for you.
Yeah, I'm kicking up dirt, though. I'll tell you what, I've been a little bit catalyzed as well, and just sort of saying, you know what? I'm going to deal with certain things as well. So certain things will come up that just kind of kick you in the heart. I'm the person who personally goes through my YouTube comments and, and approves things. And I was looking at some of my YouTube comments today going, wow, did you guys just completely say, people can't channel? Did you completely say that we shouldn't channel someone who's reincarnated and we're fake if we do? Did you? And I just, in that moment of inspiration, created an entire YouTube live stream about the myths of channeling and what people think that you can and can't do. And I managed to keep my triggers under control. And I opened up my throat chakra, and you notice I'm singing better, talking better, because I followed that trigger. I followed that purging where I needed to just say, to the YouTube community, hey, we're all channels. we're not trying to be, I'm not trying to be self-realized. I'm not trying to be a master because I channel, Ramana Maharshi. I'm not trying to be this or be that. I am just like everyone else. Let's talk about all of these myths and, matrix-based societal constructs and rules and structures that we're supposed to follow. And, oh, I got so triggered, but I kept it under control and I felt so much better.
That's great. I love that. I just happened to be on it. I was like pounding away at the computer. And I love that about the Facebook Live thing. Every once in a while, it's like, oh, I can stop for a moment. I will, because Pamela is on and I listen to that. And I love some of the things you were saying, particularly about the, the really unbelievable fact that there are people out there are humans out there who are trying to tell you who you can and who you cannot talk to in spirit. Really? Like, you're going to have to ask another human's permission to do something. And this isn't just you. This is happening across the board, where it's like, what? It goes, here we are in the metaphysical spiritual community, right? A lot of us have found some of the traditional religious dogmas, we set that aside. But so many of our own spiritual, metaphysical, big names, etc., are imposing the same things in this world. And it's sad, and it's, I guess, not very surprising, but it's still sad. And you kind of have to watch out for that, right? It's not easy sometimes for people because we've been brought up that way.
Yeah, it's not easy at all. And it's a third dimensional paradigm that we're breaking, though, and people that are still in the third dimension are hanging on to those rules because they feel safe. And our egos we only know what we know. What we've been taught is what we know. So we're hanging on to what we've been taught, and just going, I'm scared, so let me squeeze the crap out of this channel and make her, channel a different way. And it's happening with channels all across the planet. No, you can't channel, Edgar Casey because he's reincarnated right now. And I'm like, yeah, into about 100 and something people. So let's go into fractals and how source really projects, as opposed to the avatar concept of only channeling, only incarnating into one person. There's no one Jesus. There's no, one Edgar Casey. There's no one being. Source hasn't worked that way in a long time. So it was a kind of a good learning experience of, oh yeah, we're multidimensional people. So why would there be one Edgar Casey on this planet right now? So, and then it was like, well, are you channeling into their higher self? Are you channeling into that living person's ego? And do you have their permission? And I'm like, okay, I can channel into all the above. But if you know what you're doing, you can definitely just leave the ego part of that living being that has reincarnated and talk to the higher self of Edgar Casey. Absolutely, you can shut off, the being that he is currently, one of the many beings he's currently reincarnated into right now. Absolutely, you can do that if you know what you're doing. It takes some time, and don't be scared if you don't know what you're doing. If you're scared that you're going to channel someone living and channel their ego, okay, then you notice it right away, because it does sound like ego. You'll know the difference. When a person's higher self is channeling, they sound amazingly connected and divine and loving. And when you get someone's ego, if you're channeling a reincarnated person, it sounds not necessarily fear-based, but you feel more of a personality there, for sure. Much like channeling into a deceased loved one, for those of you mediums out there, how they come with their personalities and they're talking about things that they used to talk about when they were alive. And that's really common, that you could be channeling that person's ego. And that's okay, because there's no such thing that isn't okay, because we are source. We are fractals of source divinity. We are truly sovereign divine beings. And anything that wasn't allowed would not happen. Say, for instance, if a being does not want me to channel them, I get nothing. Nothing. Big old blank wall in front of my face if it's not allowed. That's what happens, and that's rare, by the way. So,
along these lines about fractals and coming into all these different people, in my own work, I see that with our teacher Dolores, who just keeps showing up through practitioners and through clients, and of course through people who don't even know who she is. But one of the questions we have in the question box is talking about return of memories with these fractals that we're integrating. And I know that I'm feeling that, and some clients are. Can you speak to that a little bit as these fractals are kind of coming back?
Yes, that's, in the inner child work communities, they call that integration. So basically speaking, the unintegrated aspects of yourself can get so far unloved and shamed and put aside that that part of you becomes schizophrenic, suicidal, dissociative identity disorder, multiple personality disorder was the former textbook term for that. And I'm just using these terms as reference points because people will kind of get that, go into psychosis, if you will. This is what doctors will call it. I use these terms just for points of reference. I don't really believe that that's what it is, but if you don't manage it, it can become very detrimental, and you can become a danger to yourself and others if you don't manage it and know what's going on and not get fear-based about it. So there's that aspect of those awakenings. That's when a Kundalini awakening just completely goes awry, okay? And then there's the other aspect of, oh, this is happening. I'm going to sit with my shaman. I'm going to sit with an alchemist. I'm going to sit with a healer. I'm going to sit with a quantum healer. I'm going to go through this, or just sit with myself, whatever the case is. And work this through and find out what this part of me is all about, and really dig into this part of myself and ask for that portion of our higher selves to become integrated within us and to become a part of us. And there's a lot of fear-based stuff about that. They're like, oh, well, you're talking to beings that you don't really know that's you. That's an entity, and that's this, and that's that, and that's a, no. I urge you guys just to follow your own promptings, follow your own knowledge. Don't get all wrapped up in this is the right way, this is the wrong way, remove this or keep that. And you guys all know what I'm talking about with that, chakra and entity removals. If you feel that something is right for you and that's not a fear-based decision, do it. If you feel that a process is not right for you and that's not a fear-based decision, then don't do it. Basically speaking, if you avoid something from fear, you are spiritually bypassing. If you go into a process because of fear, you are spiritually bypassing. Either way, you don't want to bypass your true divine nature by operating, choosing or not choosing anything in life, especially healing and process work based upon fear. So yes, your higher selves are integrating right now. Yes, that's happening. I call this the concordant records. Your higher self potentials are finally coming through because you asked for it. At a conscious level and at a subconscious level, soul level and lower self level, you asked for it. You were ready for changes, and Christians call this the prayer closet, when they're crying and they're praying out to God saying, hey, help me. I am at my wit's end. I want to die. Say maybe that's not you, but you're just in general very, very depressed. Or in your meditation, you say, I just need to change. I don't know what it is, but I know that I know it. That's a call to your divinity. That's a call for that higher self to integrate. So yeah, it's please just follow your own promptings in this and make sure they're not fear-based. Understand that you're all masters, that you're all divine sovereign beings. You don't need to be getting confused, because confusion is the author of fear.
Pamela, I want to ask you about how this year is kind of maybe changing some of this and some of healing, and then maybe a specific question about something that happened in one of my own sessions. But the first question I have for you is, was 2017 on your radar before it got here? And if so, how long? How many? I mean, have you been looking for this year to show up like a couple of years ago, or a lot longer? For me, I had to get into it to kind of really see what was going on. We're always saying, wow, the things are big, the things are whatever. But holy moly, has this year been, and especially since mid to late July.
Yeah, especially since then. That's right about when the portal started opening. So it was kind of a precursor, and then it opened more on August the 8th. And now it's slowly closing between now and September the 2nd, this Lionsgate portal. So that has been on my radar for about 5 years.
Wow.
And people called it in various predictions, they would call it the event. Some people were predicting that the money would collapse and we'd go into an exchange system. Some people were predicting we would have World War III, we would have civil wars, we would have all these things. And I remember in one of my Yeshua channelings, he even said, you're strongly aligned towards civil war, and this is how you get out of it. And that's when I began teaching everything he told me to teach the world and losing my fear of that and just saying, well, I guess if we don't want to have civil war, I better teach these things and channel these beings and do what he says. So basically we have effectively transcended that. We have changed those outcomes. So we will not be expecting financial collapse this year or next. We will not be expecting wars in our country, in the United States, this year or next. We will not be, those times of civil unrest is what I'm seeing, for 2017. That's the worst thing that could possibly happen. And we are experiencing that right now. So, light workers, just hold a space for all of that. Hold a space for Charlottesville. Hold a space for Spain right now. Hold a space for all the beings that are going through this civil unrest, okay, and the riots and the race wars and things of that nature. I saw that a good while ago. 2018 doesn't look much better in that regard. But it does look like it pulls us out of giving over our power to religions and political systems and financial systems so that we begin to create interdependent communities, intentional families, and we begin to really stand in our own power, honor our purposes more, and as opposed to saying, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm this, I'm that, and being stuck and stagnant, we're like, you know what, tired of it, gonna make some changes, positive changes. So it's getting better.
We're faced with some of these decisions as a society, but I've also been seeing in my clients and in myself the opportunity to face fear on an individual basis. And so what I've been watching in my own self is when something that I could be fearful of shows up, first off, I acknowledge that it is feeling fear. And I don't berate myself for it. I just acknowledge it, right? Like, I'm feeling fear. And then I ask myself about it and ask myself, why is this coming up? And maybe I have another choice here rather than like, glom into it and fall down into it. And one of them was, my cat dying. And, because he was on death's door. And I just said, okay, what are my choices here? How about I just don't go down that route? Maybe that will help manifest a different outcome here. And that doesn't mean I don't love him. And speaking of fear, this is what I want to talk to you about, because Pamela, I had something happen in my session right here in this studio, not terribly long ago, that I want to ask you about. If we would have connected a few minutes before the show, I would have asked you this privately, but I'm going to ask you this on the show. I had a woman show up who had been to many shamans who basically had fired her. They had said, yes, we will work with you. Yes, you have like this curse and this entity and this whatever. And she says all 5 of them fired her, basically said, okay, we've done, I've done all I can do. You have to go away. And she's sitting in my studio and she's telling me this, that, that she's got this thing, on her. And I'm listening to her and I'm thinking, okay, she's been to South America. She's been to all these places and, she's come to rural Kansas now to have help with this. And I could have, because as of yet in my own sessions, I haven't run into that. It just hasn't been. And Pamela, Dolores came through in this session, and you know what she did? This woman just was nonstop. She was one of those people nonstop talking, nonstop. I mean, I had to use a wedge just to get in to say anything at all to her. And in the session, which was powerful anyway, Dolores in my head says, go use the restroom. So I do. And my toilet's been running a little bit. So I wait for it to clear, and I'm actually, for a moment, she's still in trance and she's having healing go through her, a few steps away, but Dolores says, go. And I'm like, okay. And then as I'm coming back into the room, she says, now tell her to go use the restroom. And I'm thinking, okay, we've always said it's okay, but I've never directed a client.
Right.
Who's in trance? Hey, you.
Get up.
And
get out of here.
How the hell am I going to do that? And Dolores is so in my head, and I mean, stronger than any session I have ever had. And you know what? Right as I'm thinking, how am I going to tell her that? She sits up and she says, I need to go to the restroom. I'm like, all right. And while she's in there, Dolores says, no more story. No more words. Enough words. You're done. No more words. Don't ask any questions. You're done. And I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, but I haven't asked the questions yet. You know, they come with these questions, right? And then all of a sudden I hear, Candace, this woman has me come into the restroom and she points into the toilet bowl. And there's a gelatinous mass in there. It's jelly. It's like a jelly. And she'd been complaining about uterine bloating, bladder incontinence, and this gelatinous thing. She said when it was coming out, she thought it might be like tissue and blood, but it wasn't. It was completely like clear and jelly-like. And I'm looking at it. I've never seen anything like this. I'm looking at it, wondering what the hell and what to do. She's like looking at me like, and
tell me what's going on.
Yeah. I know. And part of me is like, I want a sample of that. And then I'm like, no, you can't do that.
You're such a researcher.
Yeah. And then I'm thinking, no way. This woman has the opportunity to take that finger of hers and flush her problem away. And that's what she did. And that's what we said. And the session was over.
Wow.
Physical manifestation of something came out of her.
Yeah.
And the next day I asked about, you know, what the hell was that? And, you know, and what would a lab say if I would have sent it? And the answer I got from my they team and my guide, beautiful, late, great Dolores, was they would say it's some sort of inert human tissue that's not really describable, but not to worry about it. I wondered if you'd ever heard of such a thing, because this is big for me, and I've been doing this work about a decade.
I'm going to explain to you what I believe happened, but first I have to go to the restroom. You can't make this up, right?
You can't. No, you can't. Go ahead and go, and I will.
Okay.
You just go ahead and go, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flesh out, not flush, but flesh out that part of the story for our listeners.
Yeah, I have a great explanation. I know what happened, but I gotta go.
Come back and tell us.
Weird.
And,
all right, I'll be back.
Okay. So ever since I first took the classes with regression and with Dolores, she always said, it's okay for the client to get up and use the restroom. It's okay. And then we started realizing that that was a release of things. And since Dolores passed, we've realized more things, which is you should be drinking. You should be drinking extra for a session, and that helps you release. And some of the new information that's come out is you as a practitioner, because you're holding space, we use that term all the time, right? You're holding space with and for your client. So when you're holding space and you're working with the client and their issues, if you need to use the restroom, you need to go use the restroom. Because as my guides were explaining, if you are feeling a full bladder and you're feeling that clenching and that holding on because of a full bladder, or even the discomfort of it, you are projecting an energetic of holding on right as you're talking to your client and helping them release whatever it is that they've come to release, their pain or their concerns or whatever. So Pamela is now going to come back and tell us what she thinks might have happened with my client in the restroom.
Well, there's something specific that happened to her, and then there's kind of the whole concept of it's happening to all of us. We are releasing things physically as well. Our bodies are, and this is why you're like the top person that I recommend for quantum healing all around the world, because you hold that power as a healer to be a space holder, a bridge of consciousness between that being's inner critic, whatever you want to call it, conscious states, between their beta thoughts, between their ego, if you will, whatever it is that humans want to call it, and between their higher selves. There's a bridge that needs to be held, and that's why quantum healers exist, is because you guys come in and hold a safe space Shamans are tough. Like, I'm a shaman. When people come to me and they do this, I normally will hold a space for a little bit and I'm like, are you done with your story? You're not done? Okay, you got to go somewhere else, because if you're not, I can't help you with your, like, I'll send them away too. But quantum healers are significantly different, because you guys hold a space for that and you're like, I really don't know what's going to happen. I don't feel like you are going to make a miracle or not have a miracle. Just see what happens. Just hold a space for it. There's a reason why that person is in your space. There is a reason why. So just hold this space for it and see what happens. I know it's a little scary. You're working with people who have entity involvement. You know, you're working with people whose higher selves are not integrated to the extent that they have manifested something that is pretty unique, you know? And in this specific instance, I feel like you held a space so effectively, Candace, that her body was able to flush out something that was very real to her, that it had become a manifestation, you know, of a physical entity, which is very, very rare. And these things can be carried since birth. So what I feel that is going on with her is that she manifested in an unusual way. You know, the core belief being probably, I don't belong and I feel shunned. You know, those two things being like shame-based feelings of cast out, feeling shunned, you know, things of that nature, and not belonging to a deeper degree, like totally not even belonging on earth, much less with her family. What likely happened with her is that she had, her mother was pregnant with her and a twin. And this is a very rare instance. It's not that the twin goes and the mother knows she's pregnant. So what happens is, before the mom can even find out that there's twins, the twin will be absorbed by the stronger child. And then it stays in the body. And it can become a physical manifestation of entity involvement, because it's a part of yourself that you have a contract with, and that part of yourself becomes an entity presence in this very unique way, and it literally needs to be fleshed out. That's why it came from the uterus, because it was absorbed in that area of her body, which had to do with sacred divine feminine not being honored, her feeling like she needs to completely control her world, which is disempowered masculine. So basically speaking, this has been manifested from childhood, and a good shaman would have told her that that's what happened, so that you would have at least something more to work with. But you, being the brilliant quantum healer that you are, did not need to know, because you trust what's happening and you trust your guidance. And this is why, you know, going into that beyond state of quantum healing is really, really important. You can't box yourself into paradigms and pragmatics and practices, because if Candace would have done that, and if she would have said, well, I'm doing a strict QHHT thing, it wouldn't have worked. It just wouldn't have.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting, because even though she felt better and all of that, I mean, she was so concerned. Why didn't we answer the questions? I'm like, you need to, you know, and I mean, and then it was so interesting the next day, and this is how, you know, this is a good example of what the conscious mind, that part of us that's been so groomed since we're children, she was trying to somehow figure out how that stuff, maybe that didn't come out of me, maybe that was in the toilet bowl already. And but see how brilliant it was for Dolores to tell me to go to the restroom first? That she said, and my toilet had been sticking. So I'm standing there looking at the toilet, because I'd already used it and I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to run over or whatever. It was going to be ready for the next visit, which happened immediately. So even that part was set up like, she can't think that, because you left there seconds earlier and it was perfectly clear. And then she actually even started saying, I just don't know about this. And what if it was the yogurt? Could yogurt do that? She started talking about, like, I mean, you know, your conscious mind wants like this logical explanation, and nobody out there, no like lab or doctor or whatever would talk about what that could possibly have been. They don't have a reference for it.
Yeah, it's fear. You know, basically speaking, the ego begins to take over because they don't really understand what happened. So the human brain races to define it. You know, out of safety, it's a defense mechanism, you know, from that part of our brains.
Oh. Does your
So
brain
this
do that too? Does your brain do that too, Pamela? And if it does,
it depends on the situation. I'm so used to weird shit. I mean, you telling me this, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I've seen that before. You wouldn't believe the time I was working with someone and they started bleeding like out their stomachs, like through their belly button. This is what happens in some level of psychic surgery, and I do an unusual type of psychic surgery that can actually scare people and then cause like bruising and things like that. And I'm not even touching them. It's just my energy and sound frequency that occurs, and they actually get really uncomfortable. But it heals the organs and it heals deeper things. So there's unusual stuff. My brain does it in relation to myself. So I'm no different than anyone else in terms of if I'm scared of something, especially if there's change involved and I'm just like, okay, just made a big massive change. Did I hurt anyone's feelings? And is this really the right thing? What if I hurt someone's feelings? What if they hate me now? Like, those are the things that I've been going through most recently, even though the changes were so needed. It's like, okay, I really need to do this for myself, or I'm going to feel horrible in my life. Yet I'm sitting there thinking about other people and how they're going to handle the fact that I need to do something that was really important to me, and that if I didn't do, I was going to be excruciatingly depressed. So it's like, that's how deep the change was needed, yet I was questioning it, because that's what empaths do. We like to believe that we can make everyone happy, including ourselves, that everyone can be happy, and that if not, we have to sacrifice and worry. So that's what I do, is my inner critic takes over. That's my unique form of expression, and I go, oh no, I hurt someone's feelings and I don't know how to fix it without dishonoring myself.
yeah. Oh gosh. Well, thank you for letting us know that you are human. You are human too. Well, we've been at this for about an hour. You want to take a few questions before wrapping it up for the day?
Sure. If you follow your own guidance, we can.
Well, there's more Lyran questions. So I know someone lost a cat. There's that question in there. And then Tracy actually asks if the Lyrans are more active during this time. And see, actually, yes. I put that in my question when you were having your Lyran thing, because I'm like, my cats, this is crazy. So, and then I guess somebody asked, if they're not directly connected to the Lyrans, are they still active for those people as well?
Almost everybody on the planet is connected to the Lyran felines in some way, shape, or form, because Lyrans are the beings that created our active races of Pleiadians, humans, Andromedans, Lemurians, Atlanteans. Lyrans created all those races. Mm-hmm. So, and Lyrans were created by Arcturians. So it's, if you have some degree of Arcturian in your background, then you're going to be connected to the Lyrans, and they're highly active right now. Julia asked a really important question that I wanted to address, because there's such a belief that something can be externalized, that something can be separate from you. And within this question, it says, aren't some of those fractals outside of us? For example, a shaman told me that a Lyran feline aspect of myself recently returned. And he also said there are many such fractals returning, and people will start to remember past lives as their other aspects return. Is this why it seems like so many people are suddenly having memories? Yes and no. From my perspective on this, what I've been told by the Lyran feline collectives is that there is nothing separate of you. There is no such thing as a fractal returning to you, because time does not exist. We create it in third dimensional paradigms, because we can only create with the concept of time, okay? In that linear way. If we don't perceive time in a linear facet, then we're not creators, we're not being creative. So we create time for the purposes of expansion and creation. But the fractals of our higher selves are always within us. There's a fractal Pamela right now on the Pleiades doing a darn good job, who I'm very connected with. Her name is Estrella. So, and I just happen to have known that since birth. But for those of you who are awakening right now, you will be having those memories, and it will feel as if she is separate from you. It's not. It's just something that we create. It's happening now. Even the concept of past lives, it's happening now. Everything is happening now, simultaneously, and we create the concept that it happened to us in some other time, basically. So even those fractals of a higher self that are integrated is only because we don't remember yet as we're waking up spiritually. And once we remember, we start to get it. Oh, that's me. And it's amazing. And then our gifts start to come, and then our abilities are more mastered. We stand in our mastery and our purposes, and all those amazing things happen.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. I think, sometimes I have clients, and I remember this myself when I had my, very first past life regression where I was going to be, this demonstration in a higher classroom. And I remember thinking, my God, what if I'm like Hitler or something? And, what if everybody gets to see that? Here I am, and I was actually, don't you laugh at me, I was actually afraid of this. I was afraid of this because I was like going to be in a fishbowl, right? And there are people who come and have questions, and they worry about that. They really worry about that. And then they worry, and, maybe I'm extrapolating here, but then they may worry that they may take on some of those personality characteristics, some things that maybe they don't want to associate with. What do you have to say to those people who have that?
Then you heal it. There's not, it's the same thing as saying I'm going to become my mother if your mother was very abusive or whatever, and you're worried you're going to abuse your kids. So what you do is you could go in that direction, or you could manage it and say, well, I'm going to become such a darn good mother, and by golly, I'm going to break this karmic thing. And you do, right? So for those of you who had hard problems with your mothers, and now you are amazing mothers, you know how possible that is for you to say, yeah, I'm not going that route, right? Yeah. And we break those karmic ties instantly the moment we believe that we can. And it's the same thing, with your, alleged past lives. It's the same thing. And let me tell you, there's no judgment. I was watching a live podcast by a really wonderful teacher out there, Samantha O'Hearn. She used to be a student of mine, but she's a teacher in her own rights these days, and she's wonderful. And I was watching her podcast this morning, and someone came and they were talking about how ashamed they were and they couldn't forgive themselves for something. And, and it's the same concept. And this teacher very lovingly, she almost started crying. She said, "This breaks my heart. You are so worthy. You in your true divine nature, you are a divine, sovereign, beautiful being. Source does not see this in you. These are roles that are," and she answered it so perfectly. She said, "These are roles that are being played, and it's like being on a stage. And basically, when you're out of these bodies, none of that matters. None of that matters. You realize you killed someone because you were serving them. I know, it happens." And she said, "It doesn't matter if you're a rapist, if you're a murderer, if you're this, you're that. Source does not view you the way that you're viewing you, and shame does not exist in those higher dimensions. You have contracts to play those roles that will actually help people."
Yeah, that's so tough for the conscious and programmed human part of us to kind of accept, because we're still navigating from our cultural system, and we want people to be nice to us, and we don't want to have to deal with things. But that's a beautiful way of putting that. When we talk about that, Dolores used to say, it is a stage, and you're the director, and you're the cast, and you're the everybody. You're all of them. Shakespeare really had it down, didn't he? All the world's a stage. It's one of the most beautiful, encompassing phrases ever, straight from Shakespeare. You kind of have to remember that, but it benefits you if you can keep that little phrase when something really wacko is going on right in front of you, when you feeling like you're going to be pulled into some big emotional whatever. You really can go, remember, all the world's a stage, look at the part I'm playing, look at the part that person is playing. And sometimes that can help neutralize and center you, and you might just find yourself making maybe a higher choice. There's always a choice.
Yeah, and you disidentify is what you do, as opposed to taking it upon yourself and saying, well, this person is harming me, or I am harming someone else, or this is an attack of sorts. No defense mechanisms come up. You just kind of observe it. And if you ask yourself this question, how would I feel if this were happening to me? How would I feel if I'm just a silent observer right now in the crowd that doesn't even know this person, and that person doesn't know me either? So I'm watching myself and I'm watching that person. This is a little thing that I do when I'm incredibly triggered by people around me. I just go, oh, okay, right now I am that person over there. Sitting, that random person over there in the crowd. Or I'll create a person. I'm like, I'm a random stranger observing myself in this being.
Wow, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I think maybe it's just all of the wonderful company I keep or the wonderful clients that I end up seeing, but it seems like some of this stuff is easier for us to do now in 2017. But we're also really tired. I know I'm tired. There's 2 or 3 people talking about how tired they are. Pamela, can you talk to us about how tired some of us are? I think a lot of people are, they're talking about maybe their jobs or their whatever, but I'm feeling kind of an overall tiredness, even while I'm doing, things that are good for me, eating the right foods or whatever. But it's just kind of, it's tough right now, isn't it?
It is. Basically speaking, I ask you to be really gentle on your bodies. For those of you who are empaths and comfort eaters like me, I was comfort eating so much this past week that I started to get heartburn. And my guides are like, please do not put another bite of food in your mouth today. As I was eating, they said. So basically speaking, you just really want to be gentle on yourself right now, because it takes a lot of physical and mental energy to do the same things that you're used to doing. You're running around doing for other people and doing for yourselves. And if you're a mom like me and you're cleaning and cooking and bussing people around and then trying to run the world too here and let the world run you, and you're kind of going all around in these circles trying to please people, just stop and breathe. That's what I've been doing this week. I've just kind of stopped and I've been like, I want to follow my own inspiration. I really just want to listen to myself. I really want to honor my body. Listen to what I'm feeling, not what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. Turn the thoughts off. But back to what you were saying earlier, the world is handling things differently now, and they're able to handle really, really profound concepts that most of the time when I tried to teach these concepts a couple of years ago, people would have been throwing tomatoes at me on stage, This year, when my guide said, yeah, you're channeling Sri Ramana Maharshi, I'm like, I'm channeling Source. Do you realize that he is the most enlightened being?
You're channeling Jesus right now. Just saying. Yeshua, of course. We were doing the thing.
Sri Ramana Maharshi. He's a powerful being. And what I was saying about him was, when he came to me, and my guides came to me as well and said, you're channeling Sri Ramana Maharshi, I said, oh my goodness, he is the most evolved being that was ever to walk on this planet. I can't, the world isn't going to hear that. The world isn't going to hear what he has to say, because it's so profound that it's, and they're saying your mic is weird too.
No way.
Yeah, now your mic is bad.
Oh my.
Dolores.
Maybe.
Yeah. So basically, I was like, wow, I'm really feeling overwhelmed by that, because the Indian followers in India that follow him so closely, they believe that he is God incarnate. And they're going to eat me apart, eat me alive, chew me up, spit me out. And believe me, they did. So basically speaking, the ones that didn't really understand his work were sort of like, wow, you're telling me I'm not my body? You're telling me I can't die. You're telling me I need to cast aside my pain, that there's no such thing as suffering. You're telling me I'm not my personality. I need to lose my identity. What are you talking about? And it was really, really hard to put out there to the world. And then the rest of the followers that were watching him and know his work were like, how dare you? Nobody will channel our God, and I'm like, hyperventilate. I got chewed up and spit out on YouTube in 2 weeks, and I'm like, okay, why did you guys tell me to do this? I'm never doing this again. The comments that I got were ridiculously harsh. And here I am going to India next year to channel who? Same guy.
That's so amazing, Pamela. That's so amazing. You are so incredibly loved by your community. And I'm so blessed to be able to call you friend and talk with you. talk with you like this.
I really feel it. I don't know how to receive it, and I'm still working on that in my own integrations right now. That's what I'm going through, is just learning how to receive your love, and it has been amazing. And so many people asked me this week, what can we do for you? I'm like, I don't know. No one ever asked me that. No one ever asked me how I'm doing and what they can do for me. I'll have to really sit with that. So that's what I've been doing this week. I've just been kind of sitting with it. I can't come up with anything other than have tea with me and have a conversation about pandas. That was a literal answer I gave to someone. I'm like, can you have a conversation with me about pandas? They're funny and cute. So someone came over and talked with me about pandas.
I love that.
She was right book.
I love that so much. Pamela, we have a question coming over from the live Facebook feed. I wonder if you might take from Manjeet. Manjeet asks, why am I dreaming every time I go to sleep? And by the time I wake up, I'm tired. Is that all part of this shift? We do a lot of work at night, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Absolutely. My dreams are absolutely loaded. A lot of you are going out of your bodies into other realms and other dimensions to follow your higher self contracts. You're going to your friends and your loved ones, and they're coming to you. And a lot of you are saying, I see you in my dream, Pamela. My higher self has a mind of her own. She's everywhere. So basically, you're going to wake up tired because you're not used to being out of the body in that way. And the more you're out of your body and the more your etheric cord is further away from your body, you got to kind of get used to that kind of work, much in the same way that marathon runners train for it. Okay. So same thing from the energetic perspective. Your body will wake up tired if you're not used to that level of astral travel with all of these purposes that you guys are going through collectively. You're going to be tired. So just be really loving with yourselves right now. Self-love and nurturing. Get more rest than you normally need. Take baths, sit in the hot springs, eat yummy, nurturing food. Don't do what I'm doing and like gorging on pizza. That's back to what you were saying about prana. I literally thought about writing about my pranic experience because I was going through this last month with researching if you can live off of pranic nourishment.
So breatharianism, I want to just say that out loud. Breatharianism, Pamela stepped into an experiment.
Yeah, I stepped into a little experiment and I really thought I was doing it, but my body wasn't ready. So what happened in my experience was I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm talking to my guys. I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm living off prana. I'm not feeling hungry. And I woke up and one night I was so emotionally undernourished that basically because there were so many things that I hadn't handled in my own emotions. So for those of you who are stepping into pranic nourishment, deal with your inner child first. Don't learn the hard way like I did. There were things that I hadn't integrated. So I was emotionally eating in my sleep. Like my body walked away from the bed, after having fasted for about 4 days with very little food. And I walked into the refrigerator and took a bite of pizza. And then my guides woke me up. So I'm sitting there with this pizza hanging out of the side of my mouth. It was hilarious. And I'm like, huh? I looked down. I'm like, what is this? And Khan, my spirit controller, says, it's pizza. And I said, but I'm living off prana. And he goes, pizza. And I said, prana. And he goes, obviously pizza. So I named my journal prana and pizza. And we're now talking about emotional eating. It has gone into that discovery for me, whereas what I learned was that I wasn't ready because my emotional child, my inner child, was still holding on to emotional eating in a very big way. And basically speaking, I also learned that you need water. You can live off of food. I could go a long time without food, especially during the day. Lord knows what I was doing at night. But during the day, you can go without food for a long period of time. But what I learned was you need water. Water is an essential thing, and it pulls in pranic energy from the sun and from the earth, and it is everything that you need. And without water, what I learned was without water, you will definitely faint or get dizzy or possibly die or dehydrate yourself. So please don't go without water. I learned the hard way that, especially if you haven't integrated your emotions, which most of us, unless you're self-realized, and I know I'm not, unless you're self-realized and you're walking around like a yogi right now, you need your body, and your body needs water. You can go without food, but your body needs water, and you can't even do just the water unless you are an extremely realized to the degree that your inner child is fully integrated before you try that.
And the water, you know, has come through being, you know, Dolores has been calling that Nemoto, of course, a liquid consciousness. So
Yes.
if you all are thirsty now, I mean, it's like I'm thirsty all the time. And do you know what I did? Okay, just for fun, I'm going to show you guys what I did before we started the show. You want to see? I'm going to stand up. I'll be right back because it's right over here. I want to show you.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be so much fun.
I've been drinking so much water and I still feel thirsty.
Me too.
So I've started to do this. I'm carrying around big chunks of watermelon because something about the watermelon is absolutely perfect and it's hydrating in a way that the water, I just keep drinking and drinking, and I'm like, oh, and you know what? Oh, Pamela, God, I miss you. I love talking with you so much. You know how it was in one of your things, one of your Facebook Lives or whatever, you were talking about carrying around the little bit of salt. You know, I practically jumped up out of my chair. I practically jumped up out of my chair because my days have been this and salt, back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. And this is what horses do, right? Horses eat, you know, lick their salt blocks. And even as a kid, oh my God, I remember being like in kindergarten and being over like by the teeter-totter. And I would look for bits of, because you could do that, you know, out there. You can find bits of rock salt on the ground.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I would test them, and sometimes I'd find like bits of rock salt out on the playground. And I'd put that sucker in my pocket, and then when I finally got a pony, I would get a hammer sometimes and knock pieces off the pony's back to have. And I never heard anybody carrying around a hunk of salt.
Yeah.
Except for me, until you said it just the other day.
We're always on the same page. It is hilarious. But salt is a cleanser. So what you're doing when you are craving the salt, you are wanting to cleanse at a deep cellular level. Okay, that's what you're needing to do. So days worth of toxins that are coming from your food and from your stress as well can be cleansed by just pink Himalayan rock salt. So it's really that simple. Bathe in it, eat it, whatever you want to do, your salt lamps, absolutely. And then just fill up on water and re-nourish yourself. I go sit in the, you know, mineral pools, you know, the hot springs. You know, I live next to one that has the highest mineral content in the country. I'm that lucky. That was probably no accident. So basically I go do that about once a week as well. And then it's kind of like salt is like a reset point. And then you go refill up on water. And when you're doing that, guys, when you're doing that, infuse your water. Take your water. This is what I do. I put my right hand over my water. I talk about this all the time. And I ask myself, what would I rather feel instead of that yuckiness that I was feeling before? So whatever negative emotion I was experiencing, what would I rather feel? And if you don't know, just say, what do I want to feel right now? What do I want to feel? What color is it? Breathe in that color and through the top of your head. Exhale it down all the way down through your arm, through your fingers, and imagine that it is going into the water. A lot of times if you pull up a memory, and you have to make sure there's no fear or negativity attached to this memory, something that was like the most amazing memory in your lifetime where you felt that emotion. Like for me, it was the birth of my children. Like when I looked into their eyes, those are moments for me. So I pull in pink when I want to feel divine love, and pure agape is something that I tell myself, and I infuse my water with that all the time. And I imagine the first time I looked into Emmy's eyes, you know, and I imagine holding her, you know, when she first came out and how I felt when I was first seeing her, you know, because she's amazing. And I just like imagine her wrapped, swaddled up, and, you know, and when I heard her cry for the first time, and then I pull in that pink in through source, out through my hand, and I exhale. And when I exhale that breath, I imagine that it's going into the water. So it's like reliving that memory, and you reset yourself at a deep cellular way. This is what alchemists do all the time. We reset ourselves in that way, so that one moment you could be having a terrible anxiety attack, and the next moment you're cleansed of it.
Yeah, and things are happening so fast like that. So even things like that, you know, what you do is helpful for you. And I don't know about you, but so I'm actually been asking for some more signs, and boy, howdy, have I been getting them. One of one of the ones was when I was getting in the car to go see this cat, the one that, you know, at the time it was very critical, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And I'm just, you know, there's a lot of driving when you live in rural Kansas, and I'm on this long road, and I just say, well, how about a sign? How about a sign that what's going to happen with my cat? Do you know, how about didn't even, you know, sign's one syllable, right? I didn't even finish the thought in my head. Can I have a sign? And you know what happened? Up from the ground, which is kind of interesting, a flock of swallows. A flock of swallows came up. And it was about 5 or 6, you know, that many. I don't know. I didn't count because it happened so fast. They came up from the ditch, and I'm going 55, 60 down this road in my truck. And 4 or 5 of the swallows were right in front of the windshield and did this kind of thing. And they just went up and they missed me, right? And the very last one, I mean, and then it did this with its wing, like, right, you know, so here's my window, and it did this with its wing. Oh, and I'm thinking I hit the bird, right? And I look in my rearview mirror, but it flies off, you know, it's fine. And I still am not exactly sure what that sign was, but I mean, everything ended up really great with the cat. But, you know, at first I was like, I almost killed that bird. That doesn't seem like a very good sign. But all I know is that's the last time I specifically asked for a sign. And like I said, I didn't even finish the word sign in my head.
Been getting a lot of those bird signs, haven't you? A lot of you guys getting, that's an alchemy sign for those of you who've had alchemy in your lifetimes. And you connected that. Birds are a big sign for you guys. And the owl has been pretty prevalent. For a lot of you. I have a white snow owl that comes to me all the time, and she's one of my favorites. You know, I call her Purity. Yeah, that's what I named her, because she feels like so wise, and all of her advice is like from this deep tone. She's like, "It's okay, dear one." And she always calls me dear one, and she's like really comforting and wise, and speaks really slowly and softly.
Oh,
yeah. And know, but.
To hear that about the slow part.
Yeah.
In my session with Alice, and I actually I'll put that in the links underneath this YouTube, but I just posted an article and a session clip from my quantum healing session with Alice, the one that had the lion guide and this elf. And anyway, we asked about some stuff, and we asked about the eclipse, and what came forth from the edge of the woods was a 3-foot tall white owl. And it was all about the owls. And the owls have been everywhere. And I talk about this in this last video that I did. And they've been sitting outside my window and calling. And sometimes I'll get up and I'll go outside and I'll just talk to them. I'll call back to them. And so I've had so many owls as well. It's so wonderful to have the confirmation from you, but especially the part about how slowly the
how wise they sound. So wise.
Yeah. And so I was asking about, and you, I'll put it on there so you guys can find it. But in this part of my session with Alice, it talked about how when the shadow is coming across with the eclipse, the owl showed me dozens, then scores, then hundreds, then thousands, then millions of owls coming from everywhere and swooping in and following that shadow across the planet, and talking about wisdom. You know, it's interesting. You have to, and you know this, but I'm just learning this, and this is kind of my way of talking to you, Candace Stubblefield, who asks if Candace is trusting my dreams and ability to channel now more. Yes, but also to understand that information comes sometimes like in these, I don't know, kind of blocks, and you have to translate them, right? So in my session, you can even see me. There's a video of me, and I'm saying, and these owls and darkness and wisdom, but it took a while to figure out what that meant. Yeah. Darkness and wisdom and the owls, and something about me, I mean, I'm going to know the rest of the story next week, because something about me being in that portal and being in that light stream and activating light to be able to illuminate wisdom within the darkness.
Yeah, that's the same thing that my owl guide told me was the event, is what she calls it. So the event, she told me this a few days ago in a dream form, that it's not, again, what I was saying before, it's not a big catastrophic thing, but it is, she explained it to me a little bit differently. She showed me this movie that I love called Groundhog Day, and that's how she got my attention. Because I don't watch a lot of movies, and I'm like, oh, I love that movie because it really created a space for that being to overcome his shadow by facing it over and over and over again. And he was getting irritated, and I think he even like possibly hit someone or killed them or something. And it was like this really funny way, for those of you who've seen the movie, for him to like replay his shadow over and over and over again. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, he basically wakes up in this world where his life is repeating itself every single day, from the hokey music to on the alarm clock all the way to not getting the girl that he loves. And he has to work through his karma by staying stuck in this daily experience without going to the next day until he becomes his full version of his higher self potential. And eventually he does. Eventually he starts like serving and helping. He's like, what's my purpose here? I hate this. And and he's like, well, what if I just do nice things? What if I'm just here to help people? So he started helping everybody because it didn't matter, because he knew he was going to wake up to the same day. He's like, I'm going to give away all my money, F it. I'm going to do this. And, I'm going to spend all my day helping people. And then the next day he woke up, and his life was different. And he was like a higher version of himself. And then he got the woman, how movies are at the end. He got the woman and he happily ever after and everything. And don't we all wish it were that easy? But the point is, she shared that movie with me, and she said, the shadow is eclipsing. The human shadow is eclipsing. And basically humans are replaying their fears of their desires, and how their desires can become the lower versions of themselves. You are replaying your fears and then the darker part of your own desire, even until your shadow eclipses into light, is what she stated. And then she showed me, then at that point, then the sun came out, and then the moon was no longer eclipsing it. And then the sun came, and then there were doves. There were hundreds and hundreds of doves, because that's an animal that she knows that I'm familiar with and like listen to and pay attention to. So it went from crows to doves for me in the vision that she showed me. And it was just her trying to say to me, to tell the world that, yes, it's hard. Yes, you're experiencing your worst fears. Don't stay stagnant in them. Movement is key. Trust is key. If you don't like something right now, now's the time to change it. Fearful or not, do it anyway, and follow your heart's guidance.
Yeah. The session I had with Alice was so cool. There was birds too. There were red birds, lots and lots of red birds, all kinds of red birds. And I'm going to release that clip as well at some point, kind of like I did with an article with the eclipse one. So look for that, QHHT or Quantum Healing fans. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and take this one question, and we're gonna wrap it up pretty soon, Pamela. I've had you for an hour and a half now, so we're going to maybe just take one or two more questions, and we're gonna wrap it up for the day. But so Barb asks, how does she know if she'd be a good quantum healing practitioner? Barb, if you're intrigued by the work and you want to be, that intention, that's all it's gonna take.
Yeah, you just want to help people, and that's practically what it is. And what I've noticed that with quantum healing, many people ask me the same question, and I'm like, okay, if you are a good listener, you're a good practitioner. If you love people, you're a good practitioner. If you feel that people are coming to you telling you their problems a lot, you're probably going to be a good practitioner. If you're one of those people that the random stranger behind you in the grocery store line tells you their problems, you're going to be a good practitioner.
Yeah. Maybe I'll add to that too. If you can see kind of all sides of stories too, if somebody says something like, oh, that person was so awful, he or she did this or that. And if you can go, I wonder what the other versions or other perspectives of that story might be. Yeah. If you can do that, that's also helpful. But if you have this black and white sense of people should do this and not do that, I don't know. That makes it tougher,
It does, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I've noticed that as well. And I really strongly urge you to go into any I am teachings. You know, you can read the harder ones or the easier ones. The easier ones, for those of you who are preparing to be a practitioner, you can read I Am That by Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, Maharaj. I Am That. You can also read by Master LaValley, LaValley, How to Become a Christ. Now he's pretty hardcore in terms of the way that he talks to his students, so just kind of look past it. He's kind of hard on them, but it's an easy read, and it kind of gets you into the understanding of losing your concepts of duality and what you think is right and wrong, and seeing beyond the veil, what the matrix teaches you in religions and politics and ethics and things of that nature. And if you're real hardcore, go right ahead and read Be As You Are by Sri Ramana Maharshi. But if you do, start from the back and read forward. I learned that the hard way, because what I noticed was his hardest teachings he put first.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
You got him pegged. You got him pegged. Somebody asked to repeat the books. You know what? I'll get that information from Pamela, and we'll put it underneath the video description here, because I don't want to tax Pamela's voice anymore, and it's the weekend, and I want to let her go. But, you know, one of my favorite thing that you're doing, Pamela, is this galactic history stuff. I've only known you for about a year and a few months, but I've come to love you so much. And
Me too.
You calling yourself a galactic historian just makes my heart sing. We out here want to know that, and people ask me all the time as well. And I'm like, well, I mean, we have bits and pieces of it everywhere. But for somebody to sort of claim, like with your abilities and your history and your experience, to claim that as a gift that you want to share with humanity is one of my favorite, most exciting things that you're doing for us right now. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. It was really hard to come out with that, and I struggled with it for the past 2 years. I kind of would sit down with my management team and say, okay, I really feel led to teach more about this, but do I really want to be known as a galactic historian? Because there's so many other galactic historians out there. And when people look at their work, they're like, oh, that's fear, that's fear, that's fear. And then if I don't teach what they're teaching, then you don't teach what these well-known people are teaching. And most of the galactic work that's out there seems to have a bit of a connotation that arises with some fear-based stuff. And I don't see perspectives in that way. So my perspective of galactic history is only like 100 times different than what everything else is out there. So I had to kind of teach people, it's not that mine's right or theirs is right. I'm just saying that there are, it's like looking through a kaleidoscope. You see your own perspective of history. People who write history books, it's the same thing. So my perspective is going to be different, okay? And I'm just going to tell you that in advance. And it took a lot of courage for me to come out and teach this, because now I'm alien girl.
Well, I think it's great, and perspective is everything. And one of the reasons we did this fractal stuff is to have different perspectives all around, right? I mean, isn't that one of the reasons we even decided to do
That's why I'm doing it, is to help you become a better human, because I got that flack too. So many people came onto my Lyre and Feline channeling on YouTube and said, why are you teaching about this? Shouldn't we focus on our human? I'm like, and the rest of you is teaching you how to be a better human. So those were reasons why I finally decided to teach galactic history.
Well, it's being very well received by all of our communities, and thank you so much. Pamela, thank you so much. I know that you can be found at aurareader.com, but also your Facebook community that I'll let you say it, because you do the / thing so much better than I do. How do people find you on Facebook?
It's really easy. And I'm on Instagram as well. I think it's just Spiritual Alchemist on Twitter, and maybe Pamela Aaralyn on Instagram. But for Facebook, it's facebook.com/groups/Aura Reader.
Yep, and the numbers keep growing. The community keeps getting bigger and bigger, because we love you so much. So thank you so much for being here. And for those of you out there who do any kind of healing work, I want to remind you that our directory, Quantum Healing Practitioners, is for you. No matter what you do, we support you no matter what modality, even if you've made one up yourself. As a matter of fact, we support you more than anyone else I know if you do that. One of the only places on the on the internet that does that. And for those of you who are looking for assistance, for somebody to talk to or help, you know, we list all of these people in an easy to use interface, you know, searchable by language, location, online, in person, etc. We're easy to use and to deal with. So please check us out at quantumhealingpractitioners.com, and you can find me at CandaceCrawgoldman.com. And yes, that website needs updating. I'm trying. I've got lots of things going on.
I feel ya. Same here.
and I do need to get there and update some things, but I want to thank all of you who have joined us live today, and those of you who are watching this replay in the future. And for those of you whose questions we didn't get to, I'm sorry we didn't, but we're going to let Pamela go because we've kept her for quite a little while right now. Thank you all. Thank you, Greg Prescott, again, N5D.com, for making this show possible. Absolutely. And we'll do it another time, and see you after the eclipse. We're going to have to compare notes. So maybe sometime later this year, huh? I know. It's going to be interesting. God, that gave me goosebumps. All right, y'all. I'd like to hear what happens during eclipse time for you as well. So check out our page and let us know. Pamela, big kiss to Emmy and everyone in your household, including that kitty, okay?
Okay.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.